Hey guys, so I'm here with
Wyder, last name Tudevin.
Li Sprinter guy.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
So Wyder's a customer that became a friend that I basically recommend everybody to if you guys need anything from drop off or pick up to the airport, a night out with your friends, trip to the wineries. I mean, we utilize them all the time. We don't like drinking and driving,
Yeah.
so Wyder's the guy. But we just sat down and had a nice conversation about how he started and where he is today, and you guys should have a listen. So we like to take it back to like, what was your first job?
My first job, boy. Yeah.
And did you grow up here? What town did you grow up in?
I was born in Flushing.
Okay.
My parents came from Ecuador, first generation, back in 1970, and my dad went back to Ecuador to bring my mom here, and I was born in 71. And so the first 10 years in Flushing, and then he was always very hardworking, and he was commuting an hour and a half, 2 hours each day to Hop Hog.
What did he do?
He was a prototype technician, so dealt with the cockpit stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Right here in Hop Hog.
Okay.
And Parker Hannafin is the name of the company.
Okay.
So they started thinking, how can we get closer to work, because this commute is crazy. We now have there's May and stuff like that. So we moved out here when I was 10. So I'm really a Long Island boy.
Absolutely, yeah.
And my first job was at 12 for Newsday. And
so funny, Frank, right? How many people start with selling the paper? Like,
dude,
how old are you?
I'm now 51.
Like your age group, like everyone in your age group had a paper route.
Yeah.
I guess my age group, like I just missed it. Like no one had really paper routes.
Yeah. And then my kids always laugh when I tell them the story about it.
It's
you have
awesome,
no idea at 12 what I was doing at 12,
12.
And we lived in this development, condo development.
In Hop Hog? Or?
No, here in Patchogue. Actually, we moved out to Patchogue.
All right, cool.
And that's where I grew up. And it slowly but surely, I ended up having the entire complex at one point. And I was doing so well at the age of 13, 14 years old. I was the first honor carrier for Long Island for Newsday at that age.
That's awesome.
I was pumping out a lot of paper.
I'm telling people that you crushed his stats.
But I remember those Sunday mornings, my dad would wake up with me and help me because I had my bike and I had the baskets, dude, and a couple of runs back and forth, even though it was just a small compound. But I practically almost have every other, tenant there. But that's how I learned the value of $1.
Yeah.
And never really needed to ask my parents. My parents were always working. Both.
Did you learn what taxes were too when you got your check?
What's that?
Did you learn what taxes were too when you got your check? Or at
not
that
really.
age, you don't really take them out?
No, it was all cash. But it was funny chasing some customers.
Yeah.
To pay. I'm like.
You learned that. Yeah.
You learned that, dude. So I learned at a very early age.
Yeah. It's funny. I bought a tackle belt. I like fishing when I was a kid, and I saved my own money to buy it. And I remember buying it. It was like $15, and it came out to like whatever $18, $19. And I remember my mom tells the story. She's like, because I was mad. I was like, "What's sales tax? Why am I paying sales tax?
Why am I giving
was like
that?
14 years old.
Who's getting that money,
She's
Dad?"
like, "Welcome to the world."
Yes. And I have my younger son. One of my younger sons. He's one of 6. He's helping me now with the detailing of the vans. And I'm like, okay, so just to give you an idea how much would be taken out, so he has an idea of how that works. Like, oh, that sucks, man. That's not something
right.
Of
course it does.
Oh, it's my money. I earned it. I'm like, yeah, well, wait till you enter the real work,
exactly.
right?
When they take a real big chunk.
Yeah, exactly. So, at that age, I was not realizing that, working and developing communication skills, how to talk to customers, and obviously how to have maybe a little bit more difficult conversations at the age of 14. I'm like, it's like, I appreciate it more now because, when kids think about getting their first jobs, it's like, think about anything that interacts with customers is such a big value because you're going to get so many different types of skills from that.
And take it with you.
Which then I entered the retail space and worked at a men's retail clothing store as a teenager. Became a manager.
While you were in high school?
While I was in high school.
So you were working after school?
Yes. I was at the Smith Haven Mall.
Okay.
The store was Chess King.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember that store.
That mall was big then.
Yeah.
Right? That was like the mall.
The mall for out here, absolutely. And so that was a great experience. Had some management experience there. Throughout college, went to Farmingdale.
So you're how old and you're managing people?
19.
19? Cool.
19. And then early 20s is when I was at a crossroad and decided to say, hey, do I finish school or do I not? Because I was just not a school person.
Right.
And I went up to my professor. I was an architecture major.
So you were in college?
Yeah, I was in college and working at the same time at SUNY Farmingdale.
That's where I went for 2 years.
Did you? That's where I went.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I was in my second year, and I went up to my professor because I was an architect major, and I said to him, I need your honest opinion. I said, I need to know how long is it going to take for me to make money? Because I love drawing.
Right.
And I was pretty good with math. He's like, son, he goes, it's going to take at least 10, 12 years. If you're in a good firm, this and that. And I said, oh, I appreciate your honesty.
Mhm.
I withdrew the next week.
Really?
Yep. And I went into Wall Street. My friends were already started with Wall Street.
Mhm.
And that was probably the craziest 3 years or 4 years of my life because
Right.
I learned a lot in those
Yeah.
years. I mean, talk about sales.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So now,
you doing like telephone cold calls?
yeah, I mean, talking about
That's
11,
tough.
Yeah,
That's tough.
11 hours a day,
Mhm.
$300-400 a day, and
How many people hanging up on you?
yeah, I mean, talk about different skill sets now, right? You
Yeah.
go from first face to face. Now I'm learning the behind the scenes and
Yeah.
how to really think about the words you're using on the phone because and how you stand and how you sit really impacts how your voice projects over the phone.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it does because when you're slouched over and you're talking to someone
You're kind of mopey.
and
Yeah.
you're on the other side hearing it, your voice sounds totally different than when you're actually standing up and everything opens up.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's crazy,
I didn't
crazy.
realize that. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's something
yeah.
that's
So it
important.
portrays you with either less or more confident. Are
Mhm.
you up or are you not up? You know.
That's
So
cool.
some of the things that I learned through that experience was great.
What was like your what'd you hone in on was your best like way to segue into a conversation being a, a telemarketer?
A lot of open-ended questions,
Okay.
not so much yes or no's, but really forcing clients to talk a little
Engage.
bit, engage. Exactly. That's what
That's
helped.
cool.
Yeah.
So that's tough. So you're basically selling stocks, I'm guessing?
Yes.
Yeah, cold calling, you sell stocks. and
Yes.
You didn't work at the Wolf of Wall Street?
No, but it was
Yeah.
pretty similar, to be honest with
Yeah.
you. The stories back then, a lot of these firms were
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And
Was that like the early 90s?
yes,
That's when it was
yeah,
big, right?
yeah. Pretty much, you throw a dart at the Wall Street Journal, you can pretty much make money because
Oh, wow.
everything was going up during that time,
Mhm.
And so great sales training. And one of the things I did learn a lot in those 3.5 years is investing in yourself. And what I mean by that is I attended the Anthony Robbins University program,
Mhm.
which I got to travel for a year, different destinations where he was, giving his courses.
And
And
what
that
were his courses on?
financial literacy,
Okay.
self-development, confidence, business,
All the tools you need.
yeah, all those type of
to
tools.
further your education.
At that age, I was 23, 24 years old.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I'm so glad that I invested that type of money into myself. And
Right.
I've, of course, met so many other types of like-minded individuals.
Right.
I wasn't the type to go out and go to strip clubs and all that, like a lot of the colleagues were doing
Yeah.
in the firm.
See the
It was just not
movies.
my thing. No,
Yeah.
not my thing. So
Because you're focused and you wanted to make money.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And unfortunately, the firm got shut down after a while. And what's the next closest thing to Wall Street? Banking.
Mhm.
I went to banking, and I had a great 24-year run.
Wow.
I started as a banker, worked my way up to a manager, and then into an area consumer market manager, which is a district manager.
Okay.
And then, of course, COVID happened. And during that period of time, I was Ubering on the weekends. So
Right.
I,
During COVID, you mean? Right?
yes, during the COVID period is when I was impacted at work.
Right.
And that's when I made that transition because after 24 years, my wife was like, what do you want to do? Do you want to go to another bank, 24 years, or do you want to do something different? And I said, you know what? I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
I just didn't think it was going to be in transportation.
Right.
Honestly, it's
Right.
just like because I was doing it on the side as a kind of like side
Well, you're
money.
bobbing and weaving, right? Like
Yeah, I mean, turn on the
things-
app.
COVID really
it helped
changed everything.
a lot.
Mhm.
It sure did. I mean, I stopped driving when COVID hit
Right.
because you needed to.
Right.
But 4 months after the height of COVID is when I was impacted at the bank. So
Right.
at that point is when I had to make a decision.
Now, were they basically making you work from home, or they kind of like just had massive layoffs
At the bank,
at the bank?
they didn't have massive layoffs, but a lot of decisions were being made that just we didn't see eye to eye on.
Okay.
And retail banking actually was just not the same anymore.
Right.
A lot of the branches were consolidating.
Mhm. People getting bought up.
You were doing more. You're running leaner, but
Mhm.
you were asked to do more.
Right.
But I'm always very grateful for the organizations that I've worked with,
And
Bank
experience.
of America, Capital One, great organizations. But more importantly, the mentors that I had in
Right.
some of these places. And that's one of the things I always encourage young adults to, if you see someone that inspires you and motivates you, or it's something that you like to go down that road, grab
Mhm.
onto them.
Yeah.
Because that's what helped me throughout my career is
Right.
really have good mentors. And that's not easy.
one of my 10 rules. I
Is it?
talk to the kids. Yeah, get a mentor.
Yeah.
And even like sometimes a mentor could be someone who really caught some bad breaks in life too, because if you talk to people who aren't all, prosperous and good and doing well, you kind of learn mistakes you don't want to make. So I always, I talk to my wife about it a lot, because kids I grew up with were a lot older than me. So they were going through their 23, 24, 25 when I was only 16, 17. And I saw some of them do very, really well. And I saw some of them take some wrong paths. And I saw what the outcomes were before I was even 20. And I said, you know what, that's a path that I don't ever even want to start. And I think that helped as well. So I tell kids all the time, be careful who your mentor is and know which way you're going to go and what path you're going to take. So it's important.
You become a product of your environment. I tell my kids all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, I know you may not understand that now, but I'll keep reinforcing that, because when you hang out with certain kids that like to be troublemakers, you think that having jokes here on the side is not a big deal at the age of 13, 14.
Right.
That only escalates as they get older. They'll start looking for bigger problems, right?
Yeah.
And so that's
show me your friends, I'll show you your future.
Right.
Who says that? Dan Pena, that crazy old guy. That guy's pretty cool though. But now during that 24 years, a lot happened on the family side. You have how many kids?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, you don't want to skip that.
Oh, that's right.
You did get married.
Yeah,
right?
I get married. I met my wife at the bank when I
Right.
went to interview. She was one of the bankers that was training in that branch.
You interviewed her?
No, I walked in and she introduced me.
Oh, okay. Yep.
She's like, I'll get the manager for you. She was just hired there back when it was Fleet Bank. I don't know if you guys remember Fleet Bank back in the day.
Yep.
And then I got hired. I showed up to the training facility. That's the first day. And guess who was there? My future wife. She was in the same training program, but in the management program. Management training program. I was just a banker. So we spent 2 weeks in this training program, and then I got assigned.
She was kind of like a mentor almost.
Right? Kind of ahead of you. Kind of. And then
it looks good.
Then I reported to my first branch after the first 2 weeks of training, and guess who was at that branch? My wife. And she was also assigned to that branch for a 2-month rotation. So we spent 2 months working at the same branch, and then she had to go through a different rotation. I stayed at that branch, and then a year later is when we decided to get married.
And there you go.
Yeah.
That's
and
awesome.
Then 6 kids later, I forgot about that.
6 kids later, Jesus.
6 kids later.
How you do it? 6 kids, my God.
Divide and conquer, I guess.
Yeah. And how old are they now?
Let's see, Jacqueline's 23. We got Xavier's 22. We got 2 14-year-olds. They're in 9th grade. They're 10 months apart. So I always get twins. I'm like, no, it's
Irish
not
twins.
Irish twins. And then we got the 11-year-old Valentina, and then we have our miracle child, Gustavo. He's 7.
He's 7.
Yeah. And I always have to kind of pause when I share that with people, because it's like, oh my God, like, let me just make sure I get it right. The names, the age, and then if you ask me birth dates, dude, don't even put me on the spot.
I was gonna say, like, when you go to CVS to pick up a script, like I have 2 kids,
all
I'm like,
the time. Yeah.
If I'm picking my wife,
which
my
kid?
son,
They'll say,
or my daughter.
which kid? And then when they ask me that question, what's the date of birth? I'm like, oh man. But I still get it wrong sometimes, believe it or not.
Doesn't make you a bad person. 6 kids, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So now COVID hits, you got to figure out, you know what? This is what my path I thought was, but no one saw COVID coming. So now you have to figure out another route. And let's talk about what you basically created from that.
Well, I took our family van, which is a 2015 Mercedes Sprinter, which we got back in 2015 because I couldn't afford airfare anymore.
Right.
I mean, we were going to Disney every year.
Yeah.
And it got to a point where it's like, okay, we rented one out one summer down in Disney, and we fell in love with the vehicle. And we said, hey, wouldn't this be cool to kind of have? And we can use this to come back and forth.
Right.
So we did. We went to Smithtown Mercedes. Nice plug there for Mercedes. And they had one in the lot, and that's what we've been using every year, going back and forth.
Right.
Who knew that was going to be a business 8 years later, because I was still at the bank.
Right.
And of course with COVID and all that, that's when that occurred, and so I decided to use that family vehicle for the mid-sized groups, mostly airports, local type of runs.
Right.
And it was going great. The summer months came my first year, and then people started asking me about, hey, do you do wineries? And I said, well, now I do.
Yeah.
So I
Can
started
you make
doing
money doing it?
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Hell yeah, I'll try it, And sometimes, you gotta fake it a little bit, right? Because you come across too new, people are like, oh, no, it's okay.
Right.
So I'm like, yeah, we do wineries. We do wineries. And I'm like, okay, great. And let me tell you, that first summer, Ryan, was amazing. That it kind of elevated the business to the next level. I spent about 90% of my weekends out in the North Fork.
Oh wow.
And what happens a lot with the larger groups is that usually if it's an 8-10 person group reservation, 1 or 2 will reserve for something else throughout that
With
trip.
another group.
Like, yeah, it's like we're halfway through the trip and like, hey, by the way, do you go to airports? Or I have a birthday. I'm like, yeah. So I'll get, and that's how the business kind of went to the next level. So that went out really well.
Plus, you're a likable guy, and it's a fun trip. Your vehicle.
Yeah.
You got the screen, the karaoke.
I added that after a
Yep.
few months. People gave me some feedback about that because they were singing anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I put the TV in, I put the mics in, the karaoke mics, and I streamed my iPad to it, and it was just very easy. And that's been such a huge hit that now I'm going to do that for the second vehicle. So I went viral the following year on social media finally, and with the Facebook mom pages. And that really kind of blew up my business at that point.
Awesome.
Yeah. The Facebook mom pages are no joke.
Yeah. Well, you're doing something fun. You normally when people renting things like that, they're either going on a vacation, which is fun, they're excited, or they're going to a birthday, or they're going to a holiday party, or the winery, stuff like that. And you're a likable, fun guy. So
thank you.
It makes it a fun experience.
Yeah,
It was funny how we met because we went with friends of ours to dinner, and
that's right.
You were taking us, and you're like, you take care of my house, and like we hit it off right away, and then that was it. And then we've since done lots of work at Wyder's house, and it's we built a relationship. I've referred people to you, you refer people to me, and it's a beautiful
that's how it works.
Yeah. And then we're taking Mom for her birthday with you out to the wineries in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, a couple
so
of
we'll
weeks.
get some film on that. Yeah,
that'll be exciting.
That'll be cool.
You're actually the first. I think you might be the first winery of the season. Actually,
oh, really?
I'm thinking about it. Yeah. So we'll see.
His birthday's April. Yeah. So it's good.
We'll be in the new van for that one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's like a good experience. We'll definitely get some video on that.
Well, that's the thing.
Before we'll get it because too many drinks at the wineries.
The before and after, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No. That's always people are a little bit looser on the way home.
Absolutely. So now, what would you say? So obviously, the Facebook mom groups are great for you. Networking, word of mouth with people in the vehicle. I mean, how's your social media help you too? That's fun stuff.
I think in the beginning, and I may have skipped this part in the beginning when I first started. My oldest daughter, Jacqueline, she helped create the name Uber Dad 6.
Uber Dad 6.
That was the original social media name,
right?
And to help me kind of build some traction, and so that helped until I think about a year and a half ago is when I got the notice from Facebook saying, "Hey, Uber is filing a trademark claim against you. Would you like to acknowledge it, dispute it, or deal with them directly?"
I'll change my name.
Yeah,
exactly.
But I took that as a good sign. I guess I was getting a little bit too popular, maybe, and someone got a wind of it, whatever.
Yeah.
But you know what? Things happen for a reason.
Someone's taking notice of you. You're doing something right.
If that was the case. Yeah. But little me out in Long Island and getting a knock on the door saying, "Yeah, it's time to change your name."
You can't have that name.
Yeah. So
but I like LI Sprinter guy.
Do you?
Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
Because that's what you're doing, and you're in a Sprinter. So
I'm a Sprinter, and it's LI. And I thought if it goes really well, I'll try to get that for each like major city, like
that would be cool.
If it's like Miami or abbreviate the town or wherever.
I mean, that is you could excel into that and like sell like franchisee, right?
Yeah.
Is that like the idea?
Yeah, that's part of the plan. If it continues to go that way.
Your background in banking, I'm sure you've seen other people do that.
Yes.
Right. So you kind of know how to.
Yes.
I guess set that up.
That's
what layers you need to have.
Yes.
Stuff like that.
Yes. My goal is to get to 6 vans. That's 6 Sprinters, and then name each Sprinter after each kid.
That's cool.
So that's my business model.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then eventually just, kind of give anyone that wants to kind of use that name, Sprinter, just they can add their state or their town, whatever, right in front of it. So you localize it and you kind of dominate that market with the Sprinter. Because when you type in Sprinter van or transport van, I'm coming up on the first page, and I'm not even paying a dime to Facebook.
Oh, wow.
And I was told that because I guess a lot of people are filling out a lot of business Google reviews for me. It's what's driving that.
Right. Well, Frank would know with that, right, Frank?
So, so, I mean, I've got 150 reviews or 120 reviews in a short period of time. So
that's awesome.
I didn't know that. And I was like, why is people saying, "Oh, I found you on Google"? I'm like, "You're coming up on the first page." I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome."
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then you told me how
it's hard to get people to write a review.
Yeah.
So you have to do like in our business, for like every 100 calls, we'll get like 1 review.
That really?
Yeah. Even people who are like ecstatic with the job, I'm writing you a review. I mean, we'll send them reminders, and it's like it's tough. And like I'm guilty of it too because I don't think I've written really any reviews.
I am too.
My
I am
wife,
too.
my
I
wife
do
will
more
write a
now
review.
because I'm so
Yeah.
because I'm in the business and
Right.
I really. But
And you feel like it's but I tell people all the time like I would never write a bad review.
yeah,
I don't care how bad the experience was. I would never write it. I'd rather talk to the owner or speak to them about it and just
that's cool.
hash it out that way. Just
Yeah.
because I feel like that's bad karma.
Yeah,
But it's hard, to remind people to write a review.
yeah,
And then it's almost like, can you write a review on Facebook and Google? And
yeah.
that's even harder. You just have to copy and paste.
Yes.
But
Yeah, that's
not
the
everybody
thing.
does it. So
Right.
it's
I have
tough.
one going out after each ride
Mhm.
through the software I have, so that's how it's more of a
Yeah.
reminder. I don't send them out anymore like they
Isn't
used
it
to.
funny how that's changing too? Like, do you notice that that's changing? Like, I feel like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, that was like, I mean, it's still important, but it was like super important, like with like Angie's List and Yelp and all that stuff. I feel like no one really gives that not any, but less attention. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
there's people who know that there's just people who write bad reviews on
Right.
for certain companies, and that's
Right.
just the way it is. If you're likable and you still have a good business, there's still
And a lot can be said for those companies or services that have like recent reviews, not reviews from like a year or two ago.
Right.
I look for that because I
Yeah.
like that consistency
Yeah.
of feedback versus it could, maybe it
Right.
was just friends and family that just did those reviews and then that they stopped.
It could have been, yeah. And you know what it is too? I think people got wise to the fact that a lot of those websites were essentially looking to make money on advertising.
Right.
And you're like, oh, wait, this is an advertising thing. Because when you start getting phone calls from your business, like, I could help your Yelp, or I could help your Angie's List, just
I
pay
get so
me this
many of
much
those,
money.
right?
It's like, all right, well, I don't like you guys because I'll have 80 reviews, right?
Yeah.
They'll put 30 of them in gray, the good ones. And then I'll have good ones in the other ones. But because I forget how it goes. If you're a Yelper, you get it like right to the top of the list.
I
But
tried that for
if
like
it's a person who only wrote 1 or 2 reviews on Yelp, it stays gray. And no one ever
Interesting.
clicks on that.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
one does. Yeah.
But I just feel like people pay less attention to it now.
I tried Yelp for 2 months, and it just wasn't the type of market that it was like a lot of single and double
You're
passenger.
paying for leads.
And for me, for the vans, I need bigger groups. 1 or 2 passengers for me it's just not
Right.
working out. But yeah, so that's been working out pretty well.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
No, it's an exciting business. We love it.
Oh yeah,
I've used it how many times? It's a lot of fun. It's a safe way to get to dinner.
sure.
And
And
because, like, if we
it's so
pick
many
enough-
different types of trips too.
Yeah.
Different
And
types
you never
of requests.
say no, even if it is a small group.
Well, it's funny that you say it's never say no. It's now I'm at a point, as you've grown the business to a certain level, and you hate saying no. I've had to really be very thoughtful about the affiliate partners that I use
right.
because I'm putting my name out there. So I have 2 really good affiliate partners that help me when I have overflow. I've got 3 part-time drivers now helping me
That's awesome.
throughout the week on heavier weeks. But
Right.
for those that are bigger groups, I have to reach out to companies that obviously can support that. So it's been working out.
So when you say reach out to companies, like you'll have other guys come in to drive your vehicles, or
No, I have another dad, similar
Right.
story than me. Actually, I met him just through a networking
Mhm.
situation, and he now is up to 3 vans, and he's
Oh.
out of Smithtown.
oh wow,
And so we go back and forth. When he can't do something because he's packed, he'll reach out, hey, I got this date, this amount of groups. Are you available for your 12 or 15? And I go back to him. He's got a 12 passenger. So
yeah. Can you talk a little more on that? How, because I feel like that's very important in every industry.
what's that?
And basically, you get people who technically you're competitors, but if you're in the same
Field, right?
realm and field, if you use that as we could work together a little bit, I think like every industry would be a little bit better.
Sure.
Because I have like probably 15 different plumbers that I lean on and they lean on me.
Yeah.
And it all works out. And sometimes I do well and sometimes I make enough.
Mhm.
So I think nowadays everyone just wants like the big thing. They don't understand it's give and take. And if you have that mindset of give and take, you'll have that good relationship. Because
One of the core values for me is doing the right thing.
right.
Because if you always do the right thing, it'll always come back to you down the road.
Right.
Right.
Do the
So
right thing, answer the phone, show up when you're supposed to.
right,
Right.
right,
That's really
right.
it.
So I do look for that when I'm talking to other,
Mhm.
I guess, competitors. But for the partners that I've developed, I get to know them first and see, what's their mindset, where are their goals.
Right.
I always say it's not about the money.
Right.
The money will come. The money will come if you just do the right thing. You help enough others get what they need. You'll get that at the end.
That's part of this whole podcast, and if like I've had that mindset for since I'm young, but at 17 years in business now, you end up, it'll come, but you end up reinvesting in the company. So we did this for two reasons. So one, we could show younger generation that obviously you didn't start out where you are today, however many years ago, and two, we're showing consumers that maybe don't own businesses what it really takes to be in business. And it's not all about the profits, because the profits now become, hey, I'm going to take that profit, I'm going to reinvest it and put another risk on myself, because as you invest in something, it is a risk.
Sure.
And you hope to get it back, but you're doing it in a way where, it's going to make your business better.
And it was a big risk going from a corporate job, 6-figure salary, to just saying, let's see how this is going to work.
With 6 kids.
With 6 kids. I mean, God bless. I have my wife who's been a tremendous support, and she's still working.
Right.
But I've been pouring everything to it, as far as my experience and just some basic customer service skills, man. That does it's not hard to smile, right? When I talk to some of the drivers, like, just smile and be personable. If those that want to talk, you're able to have a nice engaging conversation. Those that don't want to talk because they're coming back from a long week, then you just chill. Put some nice, Billy Joel playlist, or and you're good to go. Michael Bublé, you're good to go.
Yeah, you're good.
It's a 45-minute ride. You're good.
Yeah. Help them with their bags. That's it. See you later.
That's it.
So it's a beautiful thing. You made a great business, and I hope it keeps doing well.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate your support, and this is great.
Always. Yeah, we'll always do it. So it's good.